You are walking toward a mining town in the 19th century. You do not see the mine at first. You feel it. The ground beneath your feet is compacted and scarred, as if it has been worked repeatedly. The air carries a fine dust that settles on clothing and skin. Even before any structures come into view, there is a sense that this place exists for a single purpose. As you approach, buildings appear in clusters rather than along planned streets. Housing grows outward from the mine, not from a central square or market. The town has not been designed to be balanced. It has been designed to be close. You notice how everything seems oriented toward a specific point. Paths converge. Streets slope gently inward. People move in predictable directions at predictable times. The town breathes according to the mine's schedule. The first structures you pass are simple. Rows of small houses built quickly, close together. Brick where available, wood where it is not. Rooflines are low. Windows are small. These are not buildings meant to impress. They are meant to shelter workers who will leave before sunrise and return after dark. You walk past doorways where tools rest against walls. Boots are left outside to dry. Clothing is stiff with dirt. The signs of work are visible even when no one is present. The soundscape is constant but uneven. You hear distant machinery, muffled and rhythmic. Metal striking metal. The occasional deep vibration that seems to come from underground rather than around you. The town never feels fully quiet. As you continue, the mine itself begins to reveal its presence indirectly. Headframes rise above rooftops. Pulleys and cables cut sharp lines against the sky. Smoke or steam drifts upward in slow, irregular bursts. These structures dominate the skyline without decoration. You notice how close people live to danger. There is little separation between home and work. Streets do not buffer the mine from daily life. Children play within sight of industrial equipment. Shops operate in the shadow of extraction. The town's growth feels reactive. New housing appears wherever space allows. Older buildings are extended, subdivided, reinforced. The shape of the town changes whenever production increases or declines. You pass a notice board covered with worn papers. Shift times. Rules. Warnings. Names. Information is practical, not explanatory. Everyone here already understands the stakes. As you walk, you see men gathering near the mine entrance. Their movements are slow, deliberate. They check equipment, adjust clothing, speak briefly. This is not preparation for a single event, but for repetition. The descent will happen again tomorrow, and the day after. Time here is measured vertically. The most important movement is not across the town, but down into the ground. The surface exists to support what happens below. Everything above adapts to the demands of what cannot be seen. You notice how the town feels dependent. When the mine is active, the streets are alive. When work pauses, movement slows everywhere. Shops empty. Houses remain closed longer. The entire settlement responds to production. As you continue walking, the realization settles in. This is not a town that happens to have a mine. It is a town that exists because of it, built around what lies beneath the surface. You continue walking through the town, and daily life begins to take shape around you. Housing here is not arranged for comfort or variety. It is arranged for proximity and repetition. Rows of workers' houses line narrow streets, built close to one another and close to the mine. Distance is measured in minutes saved before and after a shift. You notice how similar the houses are. Same materials, same dimensions. Minor differences only where repairs or additions have been made over time. Some doors are reinforced. Others lean slightly. Extensions push into small yards or alleys. Growth happens in increments, not plans. Inside these homes, life follows the mine's schedule. You pass windows glowing faintly at unusual hours. Some households are waking while others are resting. Shifts overlap. Sleep is fragmented. Meals are eaten early, late, or alone. The town does not share a single rhythm, it cycles. You see women and children managing the surface world. Water is fetched. Clothes are cleaned of dust that never fully disappears. Food is prepared quickly and repeatedly. Everything is shaped around absence, hours when men are underground and unreachable. The mine reorganizes domestic time. You notice how streets empty and fill in predictable waves. Before a descent, movement increases. After a shift ends, bodies return slowly, visibly tired. The town expands and contracts with the working day. You pass a small shop already open. Its stock is practical: food, tools, lamp oil, replacement parts. Luxury is rare. Purchases are functional. Credit is common. Everyone knows when wages are paid. Conversation is brief and familiar. People do not linger long. Time is borrowed from rest. Children move through the town with confidence. They know where not to go. They understand which paths lead too close to equipment, which areas are avoided during certain hours. Awareness develops early here. You sense how routine replaces uncertainty on the surface. The work below is unpredictable. Collapse, gas, flooding. Risks are constant. Above ground, repetition offers stability. Tasks are done the same way each day. Order is maintained where it can be. You walk past communal spaces that serve multiple purposes. A hall used for meetings becomes a place for meals, announcements, or disputes. Social life adapts to availability rather than preference. The town feels compact, efficient, and constrained. As you continue, you notice how little space exists that is not connected to the mind. Even leisure is shaped by it. Rest happens close to home. Entertainment is limited. Energy is conserved. This is a place built around endurance. The routine does not make life easy. It makes it possible. And as you walk on, you understand that every surface activity here, every meal, every errand, every conversation, is arranged around the same central fact. At the core of this town, beneath the ground, work continues. As you walk farther through the town, the physical imprint of mining becomes unavoidable. The ground itself tells the story. Streets are uneven, patched repeatedly where heavy loads have passed. Fine dust settles into every crack. It coats stone, wood, and skin alike. No surface here stays clean for long. You notice how sound behaves differently in this place. There is a constant background presence, low, mechanical, rhythmic. It does not come from a single source. It travels through the ground, up through structures, into the open air. At times it fades. At other moments it sharpens into metallic strikes, the turning of wheels, the clatter of chains. The town listens to the mine even when it cannot see it. You pass infrastructure built specifically to serve what happens below ground. Rail tracks run through parts of the settlement, narrow gauge lines carrying or toward processing areas. Carts move slowly, pulled by animals or guided by hand. Movement is careful. Loads are heavy. Water channels cut across streets. Some carry runoff from washing ore. Others drain seepage from underground. The water is discolored, carrying fine particles that stain stone and wood. These channels were added as necessity demanded, not as part of an original plan. You walk past heaps of waste rock piled at the edges of town. They rise unevenly, bare and sharp-edged. Vegetation struggles to grow there. These mounds are not natural, but they have become part of the landscape, reshaping the horizon. The air feels thicker here. Dust hangs low, especially when work intensifies. It settles on eyelashes, in hair, in folds of clothing. People brush it off instinctively, knowing it will return within minutes. Breathing becomes a conscious act. You notice how buildings adapt. Windows are kept small. Doors fit tightly. Cloth hangs inside to block dust from spreading through rooms. Floors are swept constantly, though never fully clean. Noise and dust define daily boundaries. You pass near a processing area where raw material is broken down, sorted, prepared. The work is loud and exposed. Men shout to be heard. Movements are exaggerated to communicate. Accidents are visible: bandaged hands, stiff movements, limps. The mine's presence reshapes space. Paths avoid certain areas during blasting. Notices warn of scheduled detonations. When the ground shakes slightly, no one panics. It is expected. The town has learned to interpret these signals. You realize how the environment trains behavior. People time their movements. Animals react before humans do. Windows rattle. Loose items are secured. These adjustments are habitual, not dramatic. As you continue walking, you see how the town expands unevenly. Housing avoids certain slopes. Roads bend around unstable ground. Some areas remain empty not by choice, but by necessity. The surface mirrors the uncertainty below. Everything here carries the mark of extraction, not just economically, but physically. The town is shaped by what is removed from beneath it, and by what remains. This is not a neutral environment. It is a landscape continually altered by work that happens out of sight. As you keep walking, you become aware of how risk shapes relationships here. Danger is not an abstract idea in this town. It is anticipated, discussed, prepared for. Everyone knows what can happen below ground, even if they have never descended themselves. The mind is present in conversation, in posture, in silence. You notice how people watch one another. A delayed return from a shift draws attention. A change in routine is noticed immediately. When the mind stops unexpectedly, the town reacts as a whole. Movement slows. Voices lower. People wait for information. You pass a small gathering near the mine entrance. Faces are turned toward a single speaker. News is shared briefly, without embellishment. Details matter. Rumors are corrected quickly. Accuracy is valued over reassurance. Here, information is a form of safety. You see how community has formed around shared exposure. Neighbors rely on one another not just socially, but practically. Tools are shared. Childcare is informal. Food is exchanged when wages are delayed. Support systems exist because formal ones are limited. This dependence is quiet, but constant. You walk past a building used for meetings, notices, and collective decisions. Its walls are worn, its purpose flexible. It becomes a gathering place during disputes, accidents, or announcements. The town organizes itself when needed. You notice how rituals develop around danger. Before descents, brief moments of stillness. After returns, small gestures of acknowledgement. These habits are not religious or ceremonial. They are practical ways of managing uncertainty. The presence of injury is visible but understated. You see men with bandaged hands, stiff gaits, scars that are no longer remarked upon. Injuries are not dramatic events here. They are part of the cost of extraction. Recovery is measured in whether someone can return to work. The town has adjusted its expectations. Children learn early what is at stake. They overhear conversations. They recognize signals of trouble. They know when to stay close, when to stay away. Fear is not emphasized, but awareness is unavoidable. You sense how solidarity coexists with tension. Disagreements arise over wages, conditions, responsibility. But conflict rarely escalates far. The risks are too high for prolonged division. Cooperation is a necessity, not an ideal. As you continue walking, you pass memorials that are small and easily overlooked. Names carved into stone or wood. Dates without explanation. These markers do not dominate public space, but they are not hidden either. Loss is acknowledged, then absorbed. The mind demands resilience, and the town responds by distributing it across the community. No one carries the burden alone for long. Support is collective, even if it is not spoken. You realize that living here means accepting danger as part of normal life, not constantly feared, but never forgotten. The town does not ignore risk. It lives beside it. As you continue walking, the limits of this town become clearer. Everything here depends on what comes out of the ground. Prosperity, routine, even population are tied to the mine's output. When production is steady, the town feels stable. When it slows, uncertainty spreads quickly. You notice how little diversification exists. Shops sell what miners need. Services exist to support extraction. Few activities operate independently of the mine. There is no alternative center of gravity. The town does not pivot easily. You pass newer buildings beside older ones, their construction reflecting moments of optimism. Expansions followed periods of increased output. Declines left structures unfinished or repurposed. Growth here is uneven, responding to demand rather than planning. The town expands and contracts with the resource. You see how families plan cautiously. Savings are limited. Debt is common. Decisions are made with short horizons. The future feels conditional, dependent on seams that may thin, flood, or fail. Children grow up aware of this fragility. They learn skills that keep them close to the mine. Opportunities elsewhere exist in theory, but distance and cost make them abstract. Staying is easier than leaving. You sense how the town's identity narrows over time. Pride exists, pride in endurance, in skill, in contribution. But it is accompanied by dependence. The mind defines status, schedules, and survival. When it thrives, the town breathes easier. When it falters, everything tightens. You walk past empty lots where construction once began. Foundations without walls. Roads that lead nowhere. These are not ruins of the distant past. They are reminders of recent expectations. The landscape records economic mood. As you slow your pace, the mine's structures dominate the view again. Headframes, cables, waste piles, visible anchors of the town's existence. The surface feels provisional, secondary. You realize that this town was never meant to last independently. It was meant to serve extraction. And yet, life has formed here, relationships, routines, memories, built atop uncertainty. The town persists not because it is secure, but because people adapt to its limits. You are walking through a place where growth is fragile by design, and survival depends on what remains below the ground. This is what it feels like to live in a city constructed around a single resource. Not balanced, not secure, but functioning, as long as the mind does.